My name is Uncle Jay. Welcome to another vlog. Thanks for checking in. Just finished my first yoga session in my life, and it tells me how flexible I am not, but it's a lot of fun. I started doing the yoga with Adriene. It's on YouTube as well, and she has a 30-day yoga challenge. And for those of you that don't know, Vegas is shut down for 30 days, so this is a good time to pick up something new, right? So we might as well get into that, and I'm going to be playing a little bit of piano. Not sure when I'll be displaying my skills to the internet, but one day, just be patient with me. And we played some poker yesterday, and I lost 4 hours of footage somehow. I was recording and somehow it's not there anymore, but I'm still going to show you what I have because it's still a good learning opportunity. Hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This first hand we're going to discuss, we pick up pocket tens, under the gun +2. We're facing an open limp and we make it 5 times the big blinds to go. We're playing about 200 big blinds deep, so you want to be sizing up in this scenario as the tournament progresses. You don't need to be betting as much, but when we're playing with this many chips and this many big blinds, you do want to be making a decent raise. So we 5 exit and we get 1 caller, and then we get 3 bet to 450, and that's pretty standard. Maybe I'd size up a little bit more if I were him, but that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And then we get cold 4 bet shoved all in by this guy up top, a few to my left. And this is an easy fold with our pocket tens. There's no way we're going to be putting in all of our money with pocket tens pre-flop. So we go ahead and make the fold, and he shows up with pocket jacks, and that's a really bad all-in, because if you think about it, after facing a 3-bet, you know that his range is pretty strong, and by 4-bet shoving all-in, which is a huge overbet already, you're only going to get called by most likely better hands. As you can see, we're already folding out pocket tens, but pocket queens, pocket kings, pocket aces, ace-king are all going to call. And jacks up against that range is really no good. So that's a huge blunder by our opponent. This next hand we're going to look at, we pick up ace-queen suited. And we are in the hijack position. We're facing an under-the-gun raise, an under-the-gun min raise. And given that we are about 125 big blinds deep, we definitely want to be re-raising here. So I go ahead and make it about a pot-sized bet, a little bit less than the pot. And I think that's a pretty good raise. I don't think we need to be betting that much more in this spot, especially given that we're in position. We're going to have the advantage pre-flop that typically most of the players check around to us, and we'll be able to put out a continuation bet and steal a lot of pots. However, we get 4 callers, so no respect to my 3-bet here. And to my surprise, the under the gun raiser leads out for 3/4 pot. And I'm not really sure what to do here. Part of me thinks that I should just be calling, given that he bet so much. If he had bet smaller, I'd definitely be raising. But since he bet so small, since he bet a decent size, I feel like I should be calling. But then if a heart doesn't come on the turn, or a 10, or an ace doesn't come on the turn, I pretty much always have to fold to his all-in shove because he's going to be first to act. So I'm not really sure what to do in that spot. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I did decide to ultimately shove all in, and we end up losing. But this is a rebuy tournament, so I rebought because I'd only been playing for about 15 20 minutes or so, and I was not about to go out like that. For this next hand, we're going to be looking at pocket tens on the button. And there's a under the gun min raise. We're still about 100 big blinds deep. So I don't think that calling has much merit here. I think that we do need to be 3-betting. especially with all the dead money in the pot. So we go ahead and put out a 3-bet to about a little bit less than half the pot, which is pretty fine, perfectly fine and standard. And we get 3 callers going to the flop. The flop comes King Jack 7 with 2 hearts. And when it checks around to me, I don't really want to be betting here because there are 3 others in the pot and this is a pretty easy board to connect with. So I don't really want to be putting in money if I know my opponent's chances of calling are higher than usual. So we go ahead and decide to check behind. The turn is a 7, pairing the board. And when it checks around to me again, I think that we do need to be putting out a bet here. It doesn't have to be that much, half pot, maybe a little bit more than half pot. But given that everyone is showing weakness and that we do have something, I think that we do need to be betting here. We end up getting 2 callers, and the river comes a 9, a brick 9, doesn't really change anything. And I decided to check it back, and I think this is a mistake. I think I should keep betting here. If I bet the turn, I should bet the river, because you figure if someone had a king, they would have probably bet that on the turn. So if I bet turn and bet river, I can get a lot of other jacks to fold, perhaps, which is the only hand I really need to fade. I don't think anyone has pocket queens in this scenario. So we ended up checking and losing, but I'm pretty sure this is a mistake here. For this next hand, we're looking at ace-4 offsuit in the small blind position. We are facing a limper, 2 limpers, and it comes around to us, and we decide to complete the small blind. The flop comes ace-queen 7 with 2 hearts, and I think that we can check or bet here. I decided to check just because I'm in the small blind, a weak ace, and if I get check raised, I'm going to feel very miserable. So I check, and there's a minimum bet and a call, and I think this is a good spot to raise. I think that given that they're betting the minimum and calling the minimum, that their aces are really weak or they have a really weak draw. So I feel like I can confidently steal the pot here or just continue accordingly. So we make the raise and get called by both players. The turn is a king, and we go ahead and bet 60% pot, which I think is a good time to keep betting here. We want to keep the pressure on. And they both call, which I don't love, but it is what it is. And when the river comes in 9, it doesn't really change anything. I still only lose to ace-jack, ace-10, ace-9. Everything else is a chop. But I still opted to check. I'm not sure if I should go for a really thin value bet here, but I'm not sure. But we decided to check, and it's still a decent pot to take down. This next hand we're going to look at takes place right after the add-on break. We added on for 8,000 chips, so that was a no-brainer. We pick up queen 3 suited in the small blind position. We're facing an open limp from under the gun +2. Yeah, that's right, under the gun +2. And we decided to complete the blind. I think that's perfectly fine and standard. The flop comes queen 10-8 with 2 clubs. I think that this is a good time to lead out, given that we have top pair with a flush draw. We can bet for a value/protection. So we just make a small bet of 1/3 size the pot, and the opponent who limped in originally clicks it back and min raises. I don't think there's any merit in 3-betting here, given that we have a decent flush draw and okay showdown value. So we just make the call, and the turn is an offsuit king. This is pretty much an automatic check here. There's no reason to be leading out in this scenario. Our opponent bets the minimum again, and this is an easy call. I don't think that we need to be raising here. There's no reason to be getting in money out of position. So when the river comes a 3, giving us 2 pair, I think that we do need to be maybe leading out here, given that our opponent's only betting the minimum. It should be showing weakness, but I decided to check, but I'm Now thinking about it, I think that we should be betting when the river gives us two pair. But we decided to check, and he bets the minimum again. And I know that there was a raise in order, but I just don't know how much. I only raised the minimum, but I probably could have gone to 350 or so and perhaps gotten the same result. But nonetheless, decent hand. For this next hand we're going to look at, we pick up Ace Jack offsuit in the hijack position. We are facing three limpers, and given that we are about 115 big blinds deep, I think that pot size raise or a little bit less than pot size raise is in order here. So that's exactly what we do, and we end up getting four callers. So we go five ways to the flop, and the flop comes Ace 10 8 with two hearts, and it checks around to us, and I think that this is a good spot to continue betting given that we are multi-way and that we have top pair and we have a weak backdoor flush draw, but it's still something. So we make it a bet of about 40% pot, and we do get called. The turn is an offsuit 5, and I think that we should continue betting here. However, I ended up checking. But if you think about our opponent's range, it's a lot of aces, a lot of heart draws, tens. I think pocket jacks, maybe pocket jacks. But I have the jack blocker, so I think that we should continue betting here to get value out of lesser aces and price in the draws. But we ended up checking behind, and with the river being the four of hearts completing the flush, I think this is an easy check. We'll probably check call. I'm not sure, depending on how much our opponent would bet the river, but it goes check check, and we take down the decent pot. This next hand, we pick up pocket threes under the gun, and I think that we could raise or fold here. I opted to raise, but I think that given our stack size, it's perfectly fine to fold if we think that our opponents are going to be aggressive behind us. I just wanted to point that out. When you get a small pocket pair under the gun, you don't always have to play it. I don't recommend open limping. I think it's either raise or fold, but I typically take the aggressive line, and when I get called and there's a scary flop like King 10-8 with a suited board, just get out of the way and just give up immediately. For this next hand, we pick up King Jack suited in the big blind, and we're facing an open limper. He has about 60 big blinds in front of him, and we have 90, so we have to pay more attention to his stack than ours. So when it limps around and comes to us, we definitely have a raise in order. The question just is how much. If I were in position, I would be making it 3 times the blinds, so about 600. But given that we're out of position and we're facing a limper, I want to size up just a little bit more, so we make it 850, and we do get called. The flop comes King Jack 8, which is obviously a really good flop for us. I think we definitely need to continue betting here. I don't think there's any merit in slow playing, especially given that we are already the aggressor in this hand. So we go ahead and make it about 40% pot, and we get called. The turn is going to be a 10, which I'm not too thrilled about because it brings in a lot of the obvious straights. There's ace queen, there's queen 9 and 9-7. However, I don't think that's a reason to stop betting, as we still have a really good hand here. So we make a bet of about half pot, which I think is perfectly fine. I think we can even size down a little bit more, seeing as how a lot of straights came in. But we do get called, and the river is an offsuit 9, which brings in the extra obvious straight of only needing a queen. So I don't think that we should be betting here. I think that we need to proceed with caution because it's very easy for our opponent to have any kind of a straight here. So if he were to bet, then we would just see what develops. But fortunately for us, it goes check, check, and we win a nice pot. So somehow I lost the next 4 hours of this poker tournament. So we're going to go over the last part of it here. I don't know how it happened. I'm not very tech savvy, but it is completely gone. I searched for hours, but it's just gone. So I didn't want to nix the whole vlog. I figured we can still make something out of this. So we're going to go over these last few hands here. This person to my left, Jumpman, has been raising the hell out of me for the last few tables, and he was chip leader at one point, or at least top 3 or something like that. So he's been someone I've been combating with. We'll see what happens in this last few hands here. 3 deuce offsuit in the big blind. We are 6-handed. And it folds around to us, and this is an obvious check. Sometimes we can steal here, but if you look at our opponent's stack, he has less than 10 big blinds or 11 big blinds or so. So you don't want to get too caught up in these scenarios where he's just spewing off chips. So we just go ahead and check behind. The flop comes King Jack 3. I think that we do need to put out a bet here, just a small bet, because we do have a pair, so you want to bet for a little bit protection. And any card that comes on the turn is going to be a horrible card for our 3. So just betting small is good, and we can just steal the pot. This next hand we're going to look at, we are down to 5 players after just a couple of hands. And we pick up ace queen in the cutoff position, folds around to us. We make our standard min raise, and lo and behold, there goes Jumpman shoving all in. I think that this is a fold, and I say that because the person to my right, this yellow fever person to my right, they have such a tiny stack that we don't want to go broke before them, because whoever goes out next, there's a pay jump. So you need to be really aware of your opponent's stack sizes. Ace queen is a really good hand, especially when you're only playing with 5 players. However, we don't want to go broke before the person to our right, because there's more money, a lot more money for 4th place than it is for 5th place. So we're 4-handed now, and it folds around to the small blind. He completes the small blind. We have queen 8 suited, and I go ahead and make a raise here. I think a min raise is fine. However, I did 3x, but you should be min raising here because it will achieve the same result, and we need to minimize risk. So when the flop comes 6-4-4, our opponent checks to us with 1 club. We have a backdoor club draw, 2 overcards. This is an excellent spot to continue betting because this is a very hard board for our opponent to connect with. So just doing a standard bet of about 40% pot, you can probably even go a little bit less, will get your opponent to fold. So next hand we pick up ace 10 offsuit on the button. We're still 4-handed. Folds around to us, and we have about 21.5 big blinds. I don't think that we should be shoving all in here. It's a little bit too much of a stack that we have, so a min raise is in order. The person in the big blind is the big stack at the table, but I don't think that's any reason to shy away from being aggressive. So we make our min raise and get called. The flop comes Jack 9 deuce. And I think this is a good board to continue betting on. Even though Jack 9 are middle cards, I still think that given that we're only 4-handed, it's really difficult for our opponent to be hitting boards. So we go ahead and make the continuation bet, and he calls. And at this point, we're just going to give up, because if he's calling the flop, he obviously has a Jack of 4, a deuce, or some kind of pocket pair. Probably doesn't have any 3-5 suited in his range, so unless the turn is an ace, we're just going to give this one up. So we're three-handed now. We pick up 9-5 suited in the big blind, and we're facing a min raise from the deep stack person at the table, or the chip leader at the table rather. And we do make the call. You don't want to be folding too much this stage of the tournament, or else you'll just blind out and just get ran all over. You do need to be defending with hands like 9-5 suited. So the flop comes Queen Jack 8 with two spades. This is a really good flop for us. I think that we have a check raise in order. However, our opponent decides to check back. So it is what it is, and we turn the straight. I don't think that we should be checking here. I don't think that we need to be slow playing. I just think we have to put out a little bet here. But maybe this is wrong now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe we want to entice our opponent to call, or entice our opponent to bet. And given that we already have the straight and a spade redraw, that could be beneficial for us. But I think that it's better to just generally take the aggressive line. Don't get too fancy. Don't get tricky play syndrome. Just you have a good hand. You usually want to bet it. For the final hand of the vlog, we pick up pocket twos in the big blind and the big stack open limps, which he hasn't done this entire final table. So I thought that was really weird. However, I think that we still have an obvious shove all in here with our final 5.5 big blinds or so. I don't know how much fold equity we have given our opponent's open limping range. I don't think he's limping with anything garbage. So is he ever going to fold to this all in? The answer is I really don't know. But nonetheless, he shows up with ace 8, and I think that's fine. I mean, if I were him, I would have just min raised it, and then I shove and he calls, but same result. But anyway, thanks for watching this vlog. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. We'll see you soon.